Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are thrilled to be chatting with the Dean of the University of San Diego School of Leadership and Education Sciences, Dr. Kimberly White-Smith. How you doing there, Dr. White-Smith?
I am well and blessed and energized. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. And full disclosure, I was a charter member of the USD Souls Advisory Board when Paulo Cordero formed it several decades ago, it seems like. And so it's all cool, and was honored to be involved with the advisory board for many, many years.
So we're already family.
We are already family. And I remember when, before this building, beautiful Mother Rosalie Hill Hall was built, all the plans were going on down the hill when we were in a different office. And so that's great. Another full disclosure, I was honored to work with the former Dean of Education for USD, Dr. Ed DeRoche, since 1984. So I'm dating myself, obviously. Is Ed still around?
Absolutely. Still doing his work in character education.
He's the best. And please extend my good wishes to him. So how long have you been Dean?
Wow, I am closing out my second year.
Oh, my God. So all good? All full steam ahead, so to speak?
All steam ahead.
And that's perfect. Where were you before? Were you here?
I was dean at the Lefebvre College of Education at the University of La Verne prior.
Oh, nice. Very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And then always interested in education?
You know, it's interesting. The story goes like this. My mother, who did not have a college education and was a soul food chef, decided that she wanted to be a foster mom when she retired. So she and my dad, who was a baggage handler for Greyhound,
nice,
decided that they were going to do this as a retirement business. And so I was the first foster kid that they took into their home. And then my brother, who's not biologically related to me,
sure.
Prince, was the second. And when he came to us, the social workers labeled him uneducable. And so that started my mother on the journey for academic justice for him, because they refused to put him in academic courses. They put him in life skills classes, and she just refused to believe that his potential was limited. And so she created a path for us, just because it was the right thing to do, to create an unlimited future for us. So that was what put me on this road to understanding that education is the leverage that we need in order to elevate all of our communities.
Where'd you grow up?
South Central Los Angeles.
So let me think about this. Did you go to, I'm going to guess this, I grew up in Los Angeles. Did you go to Jefferson, Jordan, Crenshaw, LA High? Am I missing some? Where'd you go?
Washington Prep was my local high school.
George McKenna?
George McKenna would have been my principal. But part of our journey was that the public school system would not remove the label of uneducable from my brother. And because my mother was his foster mother and was unable at the time to adopt him, we couldn't get the label removed. So she took her money and put us into Catholic school. And so that starts my Catholic school affinity, first through 12th grade.
Which one?
I went to Maria Regina for elementary, and then I went to Bishop Montgomery for high school. My brother went to Sarah High.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
They're all bringing back memories over here, and that's terrific. Is your mom and dad still alive?
No, they were in their 50s when they took us into their home.
Oh, okay.
And so they were born in 1919 and 1917. Mm. They were products of the segregated South and went to segregated schools and migrated to Los Angeles as part of the Great Migration of African Americans.
What a history. What an absolute history. That's fantastic. We can do 15 podcasts just on this, for God's sake. Talk a little bit about the mission of USD Souls.
Absolutely. So you know that Souls is really rooted in social and academic justice and for all communities. And so that is the umbrella that really guides the work that we have. And we have a very unique ecosystem, I think, of support. So, you know, we have mental health services, we have an MFT program, we have school counseling, we have leadership broadly defined, PK through 12, but also nonprofit leadership. And then we have our schools teaching and learning. So, which is really unique about Souls. One of the things that attracted to me is that we had one of the very first combined credential programs, special education and general education in our schools. So someone can come to us and get both degrees for the same amount of time, which is unique and awe-inspiring, especially considering what is happening right now in our schools and in our communities, especially post-pandemic, with so many of our young people being exposed to trauma. And so having general educators that are fully prepared to keep those children in their classrooms, like my brother, right? He was kicked out of the classroom because they were not prepared to handle the behavioral issues that came with being a foster kid, right? And so now we're better preparing our teachers so that all of our students' brilliance can be recognized.
Yeah, there's no question about that. We are chatting with the Dean of the USD School of Leadership and Ed Sciences, Dr. Kimberly White-Smith. She's been here 2 years now. This great university, and USD is, of course, and this is a great division of this university. I'm Drew Schlosberg. As you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, we are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. For more than 6 decades, they've been doing just great work for us folk living in San Diego. You hit a topic that you just is impossible to not talk about almost 24/7, 365, and that's mental health. And this was going on way before the pandemic. You know that better than anybody. Certainly it was exacerbated with the pandemic. But I don't know if we've ever seen such a crisis in our world, for that matter, but definitely in this country with kids that are stressed and this aspect of it. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Some of the things that we're finding in our research around trauma, right? Because going back to my brother, right? He was labeled uneducable. Then we moved into the 80s and 90s and the labels changed, right? Social emotional disorder, learning disabled. And so trauma is the new label that we're giving our kids when we don't know what to do with them, right? When they're, demonstrating behaviors or they're having learning challenges in the classroom that we can't explain. And one of the things about neuroscience and neurobiology that really has impacted education is that we know that the traumatized brain mirrors the brain function that students with neurodivergent learning, ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, autism, it mirrors the same patterning. What we also know about the traumatized brain is that the effects can be reversed. And so there is some research that shows that there are strategies, there are practices that we can do in our homes, that we can do in our classes, that could actually heal and develop different neuroconnectors in the brain and support children in healing. So we like to use what we call a healing-centered approach to our work with trauma, because it's one thing to label the kids, it's another thing to help the kids work towards healing and a balanced life.
Yeah, one thing I've always loved about USD Souls, besides the fact that there's innovation every single time you turn around a corner in this building, to be honest with you, and it's been that way ever since its inception. Would be remiss if we didn't give a big shout out to Dr. Paula Cordero, who was the first dean of Souls, of course, in that aspect of it as well. But you guys are always doing things. You're always on top of your game, always learning. And I think one of the things that gravitated, or certainly really got me going about these Souls, and the reason I just love it so much, and some throngs of other supporters, is you folks are great listeners. You listen, you reflect, You're not always right, but you'll sit there and evaluate. Talk about how that's important. It's pretty much the core of souls, is it not?
I believe that is a fact. And, Paula Cordero was one of my leadership heroes, being a woman in higher education. And, I was an associate dean when she was the dean here.
Right.
And really creating a roadmap for what that looked like was really important to me as I moved into the deanship here in Seoul. So building on that strong foundation that she built and really leveraging that to move forward. But listening is definitely the core and the center of our work. And I'll give you a really, big example.
Please.
So when I came to Souls, I did a listening tour. And so just really understanding how the ecosystem of our wonderful centers and institutes, so the, Nonprofit Institute, the Jacobs Institute for Innovation, how these centers and these institutes integrated and supported the ecosystem of souls with mental health, leadership, and learning and teaching. And one of the things that allowed me to do was understand our strengths and what a resource we could be to the community. So when I had a fateful lunch with Pamela Gray Payton of the San Diego Foundation, and I asked her, I said, "You're doing some amazing work. How can I help you? What can we do to support your work?" And she said, "Wait, you're not asking me for money?" I said, "No, we want to be a resource to the community. So how can we help you?" And she said, "This is the issue that San Diego's having right now. All of the demographics of the students are making incremental gains, with the exception of our Black students. Not only are they not making incremental gain, but they're actually losing ground. And no one can tell me why, and no one has put forward an answer for how we can, instigate this or mediate this or, dismantle this and start something new." And so right then and there is where the Black and Genius Initiative was born. So what I've learned from Dr. Nikki Elliott and her work around trauma and trauma-centered and healing-centered pedagogy and practices, the work that, Souls is doing with our integrated credential, our mental health supports and the work that we're doing in Barrio Logan, our leadership work and the work that we're doing in nonprofits that serve the community. So, we are on our second cohort. We are recruiting rising sixth graders. We're keeping them with us, and we're building their self-esteem. We're exposing them to STEAM. We're doing all the things to help heal whatever trauma they might have experienced, or recognizing the genius in them that other educators might not. And when they get to 12th grade, if they decide to stay with us, then we will actually support 100% of their financial need above financial aid so that they can be future toreros. So that is an example of what listening to our community and understanding really what our strengths are and leveraging them.
Yeah, this Biggie project is just is phenomenal, and I was honored to interview Pamela. We did about 6 interviews a while ago, actually up here, and talking about that and all the other wonderful things you're doing, teaching math through origami, for God's sake, and pick a topic in this. Again, we are chatting with Dr. Kimberly Whitesmith. She's the dean of the USD School of Leadership and Ed Sciences. Just a beautiful, beautiful building here, Mother Rosalie Hill Hall on this campus of USD. Just a great vibe, an innovative vibe, a hip-to-your-hop vibe, so to speak. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Kim, when we come back from break, I want to talk more about the Nonprofit Institute, something that's near and dear to so many of our hearts, with 8,000 or whatever the number is these days of nonprofits. It seems to change, all the time. And we always save time in the second half of the podcast to what can our listeners do to support your 17 billion initiatives? Whether they can volunteer, whether they can donate, whether they can, partner, whatever the case may be. So give some thought to that if you could.
I could.
Very, very good. We will be right back with Dr. Kimberly Whitesmith.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. We are back with Dr. Kimberly White-Smith. She is the Dean of the USD School of Leadership and Ed Sciences. We are chatting on another edition of the Spotlight on the Community show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Talked about the great mission, great example of the Biggie program working with our friends at the San Diego Foundation. But you folks have hung your hat on many things, talking about mental health, leadership, and so forth. But your work with the region's 8,000 or whatever the number is these days, nonprofits, has absolutely been just huge. I won't say it's the bread and butter of what you do, because you have many bread and butter things, but it is so critical. The nonprofits rely on you. You have great research that comes out of the Institute and so forth. You've had great leaders at that Institute. Talk about how critical that is to the community, what you folks do.
Absolutely. We have just phenomenal resources and kind of a strategic vision for supporting the region and beyond in the nonprofit sector. I came from a background in nonprofits. I used to be the director of training at the Center for Nonprofit Management in Los Angeles. And so again, the Nonprofit Institute is kind of a beacon, and it's unique because it is not only a partnership with the local community and the local community nonprofits, but it also has an academic partner. So, our regional nonprofits can actually come, they can get training, they can take certificates, or they can get formalized education in the form of master's degrees. And for a lot of our nonprofit leaders, that legitimization is really supportive and helps their goals in the end as well. And so being able to kind of convene our programs around these conferences that we had, we just recently had a sold-out conference that actually focused on the spiritual and emotional aspects, just really a nod to this idea of the trauma that our communities are experiencing, and really, taking that and acknowledging that and moving that into an area of health and healing for all of our communities. So helping our nonprofit families just realize how much of a resource we can be and the support that we can give, I think has been huge.
Well, I think what's so great about this, and if you are listening and you work for a nonprofit, you run a nonprofit, you're thinking of running a nonprofit, you want to get some help on how do I develop my board, you guys are great at that. There's nothing more critical than that. And not lost on you folks. You guys really are the poster child of working with these things, and with the San Diego Foundation. You're a great partner there. Always amazes me how people don't understand how important nonprofits are to the economy of our region.
That's right.
They contribute a ton. You guys do reports on that. Talk about how nonprofits absolutely boost our economy.
Absolutely. So we do this in a few ways, right? We have the Nonprofit Governance Symposium that recently happened. That was the sold-out event. We also put out a report called the State of Nonprofits Philanthropy Summit, right? Where we work with our philanthropic partners and really talk about the needs of the industry, right? So what are the community needs? What are some things we need to rally around? What are the current themes that our nonprofits are dealing with? Just recently with the floods here in San Diego, kind of pivoting and rallying around supporting families and children in need who have been unhoused as a result of the flooding has been crucial. So really connecting our philanthropic partners with our nonprofit leaders that are on the ground, that are serving our community has been really incredible. Also, with regards to jobs, right? Our nonprofit sector is one of the largest employers in our region. And so the importance of making that transition for young people into early career positions and then developing their skills, knowledge, and dispositions in the arena is something that we're working with our nonprofit partners in order to kind of build that strength or strengthen that. And then we have our quality of life dashboard, which really is kind of a hidden jewel where you can go to and find measures and benchmarks of several environmental and economic trends throughout the region. So really looking at nonprofits, government, philanthropy, businesses, how they work together to create that ecosystem for us is also another way that we be our resource to the community.
Well, listen, I also would be remiss if we didn't give you a big shout out. But as you know, I'm involved with the Classroom of the Future Foundation. It was near and dear to Paula's heart, and thanks to you and the unbelievably amazing Dr. Perla Myers. But you folks were able to host our Soup Tank 3.0 recently. It was a takeoff on Shark Tank, where we had superintendents make a 3-minute pitch to an audience of business folks on what people can do to support their districts in all this. And listen, the synergy between Classroom of the Future Foundation, which is what it says, what do we do? What does it look like in the future? And so forth, and working with USD Souls is absolutely a match made in heaven and has been for many, many years. Talk a little bit about how, your collaboration has been just amazing with pick a topic, businesses, schools, other universities, nonprofit groups. I'm leaving out 85 other categories and all that, in that aspect as well. But you folks study the labor market. You know what is coming up. You do stuff with the San Diego Workforce Partnership and then get involved in that. Talk about how important that is to see what the trends are.
Absolutely. So when we are thinking about, when we look at our young people, I have a 20-year-old at home, right?
29. Okay.
There you go.
Not at home, though, teaching at Poway. But
that's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
When we look at the experiences of our young people, we have, students now who are with us who experienced the pandemic during high school, right? Their priorities are different. A lot has changed in their world. Their world is a lot more disruptive now than it was during my generation. And then again, we know that some of the trends in higher ed prior to COVID is that we were receiving more and more students with anxiety, right? More and more students who have been impacted by the testing environment that we created in schools. And so when we look at the trends, those kids are also one of the most creative, the most innovative generation that we have, the most caring, those who kind of cut away, trim all the fat and get down to what's really important in our world, in our communities. So just like there's a lot of challenges, there's also a lot of potential. And I think for us, it's about removing those obstacles so the next generation can really kind of lean into their zone of genius for themselves. And so understanding what are the trends in innovation and technology. It's one of the things that we're working on here in Souls and why we have, hired our new senior, technologist, right? Nate has been an incredible advocate for us in thinking about what is it that we need to do and be able to support our young people in moving into the future? And so the Nonprofit Institute is definitely critical in that area and looking at those trends and working with our community partners to kind of shore up the gaps.
Yeah, and I think what's so important about that, you have a great relationship with our 43 school districts. We added the county office as one of the 43 and so forth. They're right around the corner from you folks, as you know. And, of course, working with Classroom of the Future, the Linda Vista Innovation Center. We just came off of our 7th annual CFF College Career Pathways Summit. Perla was able to go for a while, and we had great sessions, one of them AI in school districts, which is here now, has been here, and is only going to be transforming the schools. And I know you guys are keeping an eye on AI. I'm sure you've already are somewhere down the path, and who knows where this is going to go, correct?
I think that Perla's work in the Jacobs Institute has been transformative to souls. And in fact, really the Black and Genius Initiative stands on the shoulders of the work that has come out of JI. And thinking of all of the threads that come from her work around how you conceptualize mathematics, how you look at STEAM, how we have partnerships with engineering, right? And bring the students on campus so that they can create drones or look at robotics or, think and have their hands on things that they might not have otherwise have access to, has been incredible. The exposure in our region to things that our families might not have been able to even think about or dream about has been very transformative and creative. And I think the synergy between the Jacobs Institute and the Nonprofit Institute has really, for me, in this deanship, really pushed my thinking in ways in which we can really be not just, a university on a hill, right? But really be a part of the community and really help the community transform.
Yeah, and there's no question about that. We are chatting with Dr. Kimberly White-Smith. She's the Dean of the USD School of Leadership and Ed Sciences. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are in the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. Mission Fed's been doing great things in the community. You folks have done this for many years. You've got many, many more years to do this, and I never lost on me. I'm a little prejudiced, having been involved with souls for many years, so to speak, and hopefully many years to come. Just mentioning Nate and Perla and all the wonderful people that work with you, and never lost on us folks here on the Spotlight in the Community Show is, that's unbelievable that you're educating these people that are going to go into whether nursing, mental health, leadership, whatever. But it's the orbit they're going to touch that is exponential. So you hit this one student now who's going to lead an institute over here who's going to touch 100 people, who are going to touch 150.
Yes.
And now your footprint went from 1 to about 13,000 with one person. Talk about how important that is.
I think the power is exponential in creating leaders. And I love the fact that leadership is a part of our title for our school because everyone is a leader. Followers are even leaders because you're making a choice in supporting individuals and what that means, right? And so the fact that we create mental health practitioners and those people are now leaders in the community and thinking more distinctly about what does it mean, especially when in marginalized communities where mental health services hasn't always been accessible or even something that has been trustworthy, right? Creating ethical and culturally competent leaders in mental health, in school leadership, and nonprofit leadership is really paramount in the work that we're doing. Building trust with the community is where higher ed has opportunities to do better. And I think that Souls is recognizes that, and we're doing the work.
You have been doing the work, and you continue to do the work, and you hit the magic word, trust. It starts all with trust, because what goes to trust is loyalty and communication and partnerships and empathy and the other 75 different definitions with it. Listen, this is like what I call the iceberg theory, maybe even less than that. Iceberg, you see 10% and 90% is underground. You and I can talk for another 15 hours and not even come close to talking about all the great things that you folks are doing and so forth on it. As I mentioned earlier, our listeners love to help out, whether it's volunteering, donating, or whatever the case may be. What can our listeners do to continue to support the great work of USD Souls?
Absolutely. So many of our programming, so the work that we're doing with parents in Barrio Logan, the work that we're doing with the Black and Genius Initiative, the work that the Jacobs Institute and the Nonprofit Institute, the work that we're doing across Souls, our new residency program that we're doing with San Diego Unified School District, this is all built on support from our philanthropic partners and from those who recognize the work and want to donate. And so definitely donations and connecting us with individuals who are interested in investing in this program and sustaining this long term is definitely one way. But we also are looking for partners who are interested in volunteering, right, to help us be thought partners in this work. So thinking of what those big ideas are. We have our hands in a lot of pots, but it's not everything. And so I don't know as a leader what I don't know. And so those who would like to volunteer their time, either to support advocacy or even to work with our students that we bring on campus for our Black and Genius Initiative, having role models in the community that look like them, right? Our students in the Black and Genius Initiative are very diverse. I think there's about 5 languages spoken by the students that are there. They they come from diverse communities. Some of them come from our surrounding countries who, their families have come here as refugees. And so thinking about the ways in which we can bring role models that mirror the populations that we work with is also a really wonderful way to give back.
Right, and I encourage our listeners that USD Souls has a phenomenal website. You're going to be able to reach out to any. There's a FAQ, and just say, I heard the interview with Dr. White Smith on the Spotlight in the Community show, and I want to help in every which way, and you will get a contact there. To say this was enjoyable would be an understatement. It's so good to see you again. Thank you for everything you do for certainly this community, the great people you have working with you, supporting organizations like Classroom of the Future Foundation. It's terrific. We have just touched a little bit of what we can do. Promise me we'll do a return visit to our Spotlight show somewhere down the road.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking to Dr. Kimberly White-Smith. She is the Dean of USD School of Leadership and Ed Sciences. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, continuing to do great things for us folk in San Diego County for more than 6 decades. We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.